Welcome back to Bit About Crypto. I'm David James, your host, also the Job Whisperer, and I'm back again with my co-host, Dave Hampton.
How's it going?
Robo-recruiter.
Thank you.
You've been robo-recruiting, brother?
I've been robo-recruiting. Yep. All a day's work.
Well, if you work hard, that means I don't have to. So keep up the good work.
You said that from day one.
No, what I said to you is if you work hard, this will all be mine.
I know. I know.
Yeah, here we are back in Las Vegas. Hot.
Hot, scorching, hellish.
Yeah, I mean, the hottest I've ever been and the coldest I've ever been is in this town. I once on New Year's Eve, I decided, hey, it's Vegas. I left without my jacket. It was like 40, 38 degrees. The village was missing the idiot, clearly. I did that, yeah.
No, the hottest place I've ever been is Afghanistan. So,
yeah, I bet that's hot.
It was 140, and then at night, 85, 90. Yeah.
Because they like to keep it cool at night.
Right.
So anyhow, so I'm David James, and this is Bit About Crypto, and we have this podcast to bring awareness to cryptocurrency and blockchain and how it's actually changing the world, and specifically how it relates to the changing job market and the evolution of consciousness of people as they're going to be the ones that are in the job market. So if you want to know more about cryptocurrency and learn more, this is the channel for you. You are our audience. If you have heard about cryptocurrency, NFTs, blockchain, and you think you want to be in that space, well, you probably have a talent that's transferable. So you should contact me at blockchainrecruiters.net. That's our website. Or just contact me directly at davidj@blockchainrecruiters.net. And, of course, Twitter, or you can call me, 831-222-5445. Thank you, Travis. And give me on Twitter at the BTC Recruiter. And so anyhow, so as you know, we have all kinds of different guests. And David, when we started this podcast, we decided it wasn't going to be a number go up, this coin good, that coin bad. Hey, you should really buy this coin. Call my patron or pay me $50 a month and I'll tell you what coins I have. It's nothing like that. And also, I just want to say that there are a lot of scammers in the comment section. Okay, that's not me. I'll never send you anything in the comments that say, call me at this dumb Telegram number and pay me money, okay? That's not how we operate. We don't do that. So those are all scams pretending to be me and Dave. So anyhow, back to where we were. What I was looking for is I wanted, when I started this, the idea of this podcast, I wanted it to be from people who had a different take on life, from a different world experience, and how they saw that blockchain was changing the world. And, here we are in June of 2021, excuse me. Mm-hmm. And, since this COVID, specifically the summer of 2020, it was pretty electric in the United States. I'm just going to use the word electricity. There's a lot of electricity. And, I was watching Bitcoin just like everybody else and all the other cryptocurrencies. And, I've had this advocacy for it for 9 years. And I've chartered our part of the recruiting firm for like 2.5 years, and I saw something where there was this Zoom call that we had where there were a bunch of developers, and there was this one guy, and he says, look, I'm part of the Black Lives Matter movement, and I really think that Bitcoin is sound money, and it takes away the disenfranchisement that we have. So I thought about that because I just lacked the awareness, and I thought about that, and I decided I wanted somebody who actually can see really day-to-day the black experience in America and cryptocurrency. And I, of course, being the recruiter, we're recruiters, right? We find people with a certain skill set, right?
That's right.
And I came across a gentleman who I'm really excited to have today, and we're becoming good friends. I mean, we're not true friends, but we're new friends, but I think we're going to become true friends. His name is Uche Njoku. And I want to say it correctly, right? And the thing that really impressed me about him is when I looked at his LinkedIn profile, and as recruiters, we look at LinkedIn profile. All day, every day.
That's right.
And I noticed one of the things that he had was he had progression, right? And in any field, he started as an assistant principal, and he was a teacher and an assistant principal, and now he's currently the principal of a New York City school system. And I immediately knew, how you see somebody's photo and energetically this will be a good candidate for a certain. I just knew that he'd be right, and so I sent him this email, and I said, "Hey man, I want you to be on my podcast." And literally after I sent it, I looked at my email, and he was sending an email to me asking me to be on his podcast. It's like our letters crossed in the mail, our emails. And so I felt that would go to my Jewish roots, that's kismet, right?
Okay.
And so we've had a couple of conversations, and we've gone off topic of just cryptocurrency. But one of the things that he actually said to me was that they don't teach financial literacy in the New York school system, specifically where he lives. And I went, and so he said, so his advocacy, in addition to being a representative, to the hope, right, of mostly black youth, is that I want to actually talk about alternative blockchain financial literacy and give hope. And I went, dude. And we talked a couple of times. I was captivated.
Yeah, no, that's deep, man. I mean, I remember one of the lessons I did. I had to scrap a lesson for an English class, and that turned into them resisting reading or whatever it is we were doing, and to the point of like, hey, you know why you need to read? And so we went into a financial literacy class, and they were mesmerized because right then and there, they realized what their future could be, and maybe didn't want to be in terms of that.
So with no further ado, I'd like to invite our guest to actually speak. Uche, welcome so much to Bit About Crypto and Bit About Crisco. Nice. Bit About Crypto, and thank you so much for making the time.
It is a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your kind words. How are you doing? How are you gentlemen doing?
Well, it's hot. I mean, I know that you did a stint here in Clark County as a assistant principal, right? It was 120 yesterday, but it's a nice, cool 116 right now.
It's still not as bad as New York, man. Humidity in New York,
right.
It's terrible.
It's a
dry heat.
As they say in the Jewish community, it's a schwitz, but it's a dry heat. So yeah, Uche, it would be great. You talked to me about your genesis on where you're from, where you actually got to in Inglewood playing ball, and can you talk about that? Just let the audience just know who you are.
Sure, most definitely. So again, my name is it's Uche Njoku. If you see me on social media, you'll see my full name, which is Uche Njoku, and the name comes from Nigeria. I was born in Nigeria of the Igbo tribe, and my family we relocated here in the late '80s. And to Los Angeles, actually. And I went to school in Los Angeles, middle school, high school, Inglewood High School. And then in high school, typical kid, played football. Actually, it's funny because I actually came to America as a soccer player. And in high school, I had a coach who saw me and said, hey, you're a big kid. You want to play football? And I said, yes. Not understanding that the football I was talking about was not the football he was talking about.
Right.
I thought it was pretty cool because it still resembled something that I was familiar with, which was rugby. So played football. Ended up being I started off as a very, very small lineman. That's where you start. All the novice football players who don't know much about the sport, they just tell you block, and then eventually went to fullback, and then I ended up being a tailback. So
wait, is that kind of like when they're picking like in the park softball? Everybody gets a base. Everybody else left field. Kind of thing, right?
Basically,
okay. Yeah.
But it was funny because I think I joined the team in sophomore year, and I was about probably 5'4", 5'5", and I knew nothing. So it was like, okay, just stop this person from getting past you. And I was a short, little, stocky kid, so I was pretty strong. I was able to hold most big guys away. Then eventually, I went from being like a guard to being a pulling guard, and then they were like, "Okay, you got a little speed on you." Then they were like, let's see what happens when we give you the ball." Then I ended up being a fullback, and I got a little bit taller. I finally hit like 5'7", and I was about 170 pounds. And next thing you know, I was a tailback, and I did good enough to end up at University of Rochester, Division III football. Not complaining because I definitely still didn't have the broad enough knowledge to play like, anything higher than that. But I played Division III football, and when University of Rochester graduated, had a stint in the Marine Corps, and it was a short time. I ended up getting an injury there. Then after that, graduated from college, and I went into corporate sales and did that for a while in Los Angeles. And one day I was like, okay, there has to be more. It has to be more than just sales goals and expense accounts. I wanted to do more, and I decided I was going to teach. No, actually, no, let me take that back. I decided I was going to go to law school, And but deep down inside, I was like, you know, I want to teach, but it's not prestigious enough. You know, I'm coming from a Nigerian family. There's only three options in the Nigerian family. Either you're going to be a doctor, a doctor, a lawyer, or an engineer. One of those three things. So I was like, okay, I'll be a lawyer, and I applied to law school. Got into a small law school in Los Angeles. My aunt, who's an attorney, said, absolutely not. You have to go to at least a USC or a Pepperdine or something of that caliber. So I was like, okay,
they wanted something accredited, right? Something accredited.
They want something prestigious.
Right.
She wanted to be able to say, listen, you have to have the name behind, you know, so
it's the power of the alumni. That's what
exactly.
It is.
Exactly. And it was smart because the school I got into, it was a small school. It was accredited, but it was a small school no one had ever heard of. And I'm not going to put them on blast, so I'm not going to mention who they are. But so I decided, okay, I was going to spend another year, you know, increasing my LSAT scores. And what ended up happening was she was like, you should also do something to bolster your resume. All you have is sales. And I was like, okay, maybe I'll teach. You know, I had friends of mine who had done the teaching thing for a little while they were getting ready to go to law school. So I chose to do that. But at the same time, LA Unified and pretty much all the other districts in Los Angeles were not hiring. There was a hiring freeze. Then friends of mine in New York were like, hey, they're always hiring in New York, so you should apply here. And I heard about the New York City Teaching Fellows Program, so I applied. I applied, and initially I did not get in, which was funny. I applied and I got the rejection letter, but three weeks later, I got another letter saying, hey, due to whatever reason, we would like to extend you an invitation. And what happened was, they didn't meet their quota. So I guess a lot of people that had been accepted to the program opted not to show up. So it was kind of weird because now here I am, a reject who's coming in. So I felt like, okay, whatever, I have nothing to lose. And I moved to New York. I was placed in the Bronx. And my first job interview, actually I had a couple of job interviews, but the first one that I took, I was offered the job, and I was also told, hey, you're going to be a special ed teacher here. Job is yours. But however, we see your military background. We see you from Los Angeles. How do you feel about discipline? Which I thought was an odd question. Why would you ask me about discipline? I want to be a special ed teacher. And I was like, is it necessary? And the principal said to me, well, my assistant principal is going on maternity leave. She's not coming back after that. So I need somebody strong to be the dean. And I thought, okay, this is weird. I'm applying to be a first-year teacher. Like, I've never taught before.
I'm guessing, Uche, that you were one of like maybe two men on staff or something like that. Like, I mean, they're always looking for strong fatherly figures.
Yes, but I mean, I'm a very blunt person. I'm gonna call it what it is too. Like, I mean, at this point in time, I grew those last 2 inches. I'm like about 5. I'm 5'9". At that point, I was like 270. I was 270 and a ball of muscle. So I had like no neck, and I was just like, so I'm pretty sure you saw, okay, a male, military background, football player, and not only that, intimidating black male is that well. And the school I was applying that I got the offer at had a serious gang problem. Like, it had a serious gang problem. And I'm talking about everything was there. The Bloods, Crips, Latin Kings, Trinitarios, Didi. I mean, it was a menu of gangs in there. And I didn't really know that, but I thought to myself, wait a minute, so you're going to make me a dean off the bat? So I was like, sure. I took the job. And I got there, then I realized what he was doing. He was like, listen, I need you to be my personal security and keep
the pit
exactly. But it worked out to my benefit because what I thought was going to be just a opportunity to but it's funny because in my mind I was thinking I'm not gonna have to teach many classes, but I would spend a lot of my time managing the school culture. But it was like all the stars aligned. My growing up in LA in a gang infested community, being in the military, being an athlete, all these things all aligned. So when I got there, the kids really gravitated to me. And the disciplinary numbers in my school in 2 years was literally cut by it was cut down to like a third of what it was before I arrived there. And from that point, it was kind of like I was on a trajectory towards school leadership off the bat. And as time went on, I left that school, went to another school, and that principal took me under his wing and was like, listen, I see something in you, join me. And I went with this principal, and he became an executive principal, and he created a turnaround team, and us and a couple other teachers went around schools, just turning around schools. And during that time, I became an assistant principal. And then I left for a year, went to Clark County Schools, was an assistant principal there. Didn't like it much. Went back to New York, and the rest is history. But I came back. I was made a principal, and now I'm at my second principalship. So my first was a middle school, and now I'm at a high school in Brooklyn.
So let me ask you this question. I ask everybody this question on the podcast. How did Bitcoin find you?
I think it found me like everybody else. I think this was like 2013. Was that 2013? When there was a little bit of a frenzy, that 12, 13, 14, that time frame was where everybody was just going crazy, and everybody was like, "Oh my God, you could get rich overnight."
You're talking about winter of 2013 when it went from 300 to 1,000.
Yeah, and everybody was going crazy. My brother was calling me, and everybody was like, and I'd heard about Bitcoin, but of course, I didn't think much of it. I was like, there's all these trends in the digital space, and didn't think much of it. But to see something, like, it was weird. Back then, I was thinking to myself, is this digital thing that's not even tangible? Like, you can't hold it, And I won't lie, a part of me thought that there was a coin attached to it somewhere, like a physical coin. And but I just remember watching the frenzy, and I was very confused, didn't understand it at all, and I kind of ignored it. And I saw the leaps over the next couple of years, and then the bottom outs. And of course, I went through the same emotional trend like a lot of people. It's a scam. Like, watch people losing their money doing this. But I think what happened for me was, as time went on, and I wasn't really participating as far as buying Bitcoin or cryptocurrency, but I'm a very curious person. And just when I discovered blockchain, and I tried to understand what blockchain was, and the whole, verifiable ledger, and being able, and then I started to understand the whole DeFi space as far as being able to, like, cut out the middleman. I found that very interesting, because I've always been kind of like an economics nerd, like a very rookie level economics nerd. But just the whole concept of money and bartering and who controls what, I thought was very interesting, especially being not only being an African American, because even though I was born in Africa and I'm here, I am a U.S. citizen, and I've grown up in African American spaces, but also being the child of colonialized spaces as well, and understand how economy has really ravaged Black spaces, whether it's here in America, in the Caribbean, and Africa, and understand a lot of countries, a lot of spaces don't really control the amount of their own monies. I thought blockchain was so fascinating, and I think that allowed me to really push to really understand what Bitcoin was. Then I discovered Ethereum and all these other spaces, and I was like, wait a minute, there's something going on here that's very interesting. It's not just buying and selling coins and tokens as security tools. There's another space here about building economic ecosystems, and I think from that point, it really hit me as an educator, because my students are always asking me, or at least trying to understand the world they're walking into. And this world that exists right now that they're walking into is very, very different than the one I came from. Because when I came from was go to college, get a college degree, and try to find a good job and hold on to that job for 30, 40 years and retire hopefully with a gold watch or a silver watch or a tin watch, retire with something. But the whole notion of being able to have control of your own finances, especially in this digital space, I was like, okay, I need to understand this. I really need to understand this. And even if I don't benefit from it, I need to be able to explain this to my students so they can even take it further. And I know I just went beyond your question.
No. It's all good, because if our listeners care, they're going to listen, because you and I both know we're going to tie this all up, because I wouldn't have brought you on if it didn't make sense. But before we go on and talk about financial literacy, you made up a really good point. And I'm learning this with my kids. The whole idea of go to college, and then work hard and then have a house. That's the dream of my generation, my parents' generation. That's not the dream of kids. And what I want to circle my point to you is what I'm seeing is that the same lie that kids are told, go $180,000 in debt, get a college degree, come out, be a slave to that college loan payment, and get the exact same job at Starbucks that the person who actually didn't go to college got, and now you're working for that person, right? And I know specifically one of the things that really resonated with me. You talked to me. It's like there's a lot of lack of hope in the marginalized kids that you have, because there's problems at home, there's violence, there's alcoholism, there's poverty, and you said that you're one of the one of the beacons of light. You got to go up and you got to represent that. If you stay a course, that you can be something else, just other than what you see, right, within this borough or even this neighborhood. And I want to ask you, can you speak, before we get to financial literacy? Can you speak on how you see that as far as kids going to college today and saying, what's the point, or if that's accurate, or maybe I went on beyond the point I was supposed to go.
No. No, that's a very fair question. So I'm going to preface what I'm going to say by saying this first. One of the benefits that I received growing up in the household I grew up in is that my parents, my father left Nigeria. We're from small villages in West Africa. My father was a really smart guy, and he got a full scholarship to go to Saudi Arabia, and he went to school in Saudi. Met my mom when he was a student. My mom married him, and we had me, and we moved to Saudi. And the great thing about living in Saudi and traveling different parts of the world, you get to see realities. And I've seen poverty in Nigeria. I've seen what poverty looks like, even in the Middle East. And I've seen what poverty looks like. And it's funny because when my father graduated and we came to America, because we came to America because of the dream, the streets that are supposed to be paved in gold, and the land of opportunity, which is still a land of opportunity. But one thing my father learned, and I learned from watching his journey, was the whole notion of access and not quite being equitable for everyone. And growing up in Los Angeles, I saw that. My parents did pretty well for us. We weren't rich by any means, but we weren't, in the gutter. But we were close enough that I got to see that and be like, whoa, that's what the bottom looks like. And so when I became an educator in the Bronx, it's funny because I love the Bronx. The Bronx made me who I am today. Being able to think about this. My last job before I left LA to come to New York City, I was working. I was working sales. Then I left sales for a year as I was preparing for law school, and I was a personal assistant to a retired real estate broker in Malibu. And part of the deal was that I got to live in the guest house on the beach in Malibu at a super discounted rent. So I woke up every morning on the beach in Malibu. I would Adam Sandler walk by. I would see Matthew McConaughey saving beast dolphins. Like literally, I've seen these things. And so for me to have been able to shift from all these different spaces, then being in the Bronx, and I've seen, like, literally I've seen this. There are parts of this country, in the Bronx and other parts of the country as well, where people are stuck. They're so stuck, and hopelessness is just their norm. We can't even say they don't have any hope. It's just where they are is just what it is. Just for literally for generations. I've literally stood outside of my school as a principal and seen a guy standing across the street, standing there in a heroin stupor with a needle still hanging out of his arm as kids are walking around him. I've seen these things. I've had to rush kids into a building because somebody's running down the block shooting at another person, and we're trying to push kids back into the building at school dismissals. Like, these are all the norms. And what happens with that is you have kids who, in their minds, they know something's not right about this. They just don't know how to define it or even how to escape it. So as an educator, and my job is to let them know there's another way. There's something else out there. But in the beginning, my only other way was to go to college, try to get a good job. And of course, that comes with certain issues. Student loans. Are you going to be able to survive college? And all these questions that we don't really talk about. We just say go to college. I am a proponent for college, and I tell all my students, even right now, if you're a senior in my school, you will apply to college, you will get into college, so you have that option. But also that's tied in around some serious financial literacy about student loans, understanding that you need to know what you're majoring in and what kind of financial aid packages or scholarship packages you're getting from these schools, and not just go to college just because you need to run away from home. Because
so I want to talk on this. So specifically, when did you come to the awareness? And I don't know how to pivot on this question. When did you realize that this community of our future, members of society from these socioeconomic environments lacked the financial literacy, or did you figure that out immediately, and then did you figure out, hey, now with blockchain, I can do something about it? I just want to get to the point where you said, hey, I'm going to go above and beyond, and I'm going to teach these kids about blockchain.
How about before you answer, how about this? This will ring true with you, Uche. How about the fact that the when I was teaching, this was back in 2008, right? I had students who would walk in with the brand new Jordans, the brand new kicks, the brand new we're talking $150, $200 shoes, right? But they can't afford lunch. They can't afford. So talk about financial literacy or lack thereof, because their awareness or their sense of what right looks like is just morphed. It's warped, in a certain way. I mean, what do you say about that, Uche? I mean, is that ring true to you? I mean, that's what I saw, man. I mean.
No. I mean, 100% that rings true. And it's funny because I've had this conversation with my students. Like if you notice, my social media handle is Sneaker Principal. I'm a sneakerhead. You can't see the full screen, but right over on this side, you can see my sneaker.
Yeah. Show it, Travis, right there.
Yeah. My best friend's a principal in Dallas, and he's a sneakerhead too, man. You guys should talk.
Yeah, but Uche's got a bow tie to match. Does Garrett have that?
I don't know.
But the thing about that, it's funny because a lot of my students, we've had deep conversations about sneakers and the economy behind it. I've had people who I've brought into my schools to talk to their kids about sneaker economy and so they understand this is an investment as well. But the thing to your question, I think is very interesting. There's an inherent American problem. And every community has its own sneakers. And I've had the students who've come to school with brand new Jordans and they're hungry,
Right.
But at the same time, I've seen people, and I'll tell you this, when I was in sales in LA, I knew this guy who we were going head to head on a sales number. He drove a Range Rover. This was 2000. This was like 2003, 2002, 2003. He had a Range, and beautiful car. And he lived in Manhattan Beach. So outwardly, you're thinking, man, he's living the life. He has the range. He's living in Manhattan Beach. He lived in an apartment smaller than this room. This was his whole entire apartment. He had that car he couldn't afford because it's all about keeping up with the Joneses and creating a sense of comfort for yourself because you can fit in with everybody else. And what happens with that is this is a reality for a lot of Americans across the board. And the worst part about it, when it comes to to a lot of poor communities, it still exhibits itself as in, I gotta have the right clothing or the right shoes or the right thing. And not only that, we also live in a society where people will make fun of you or try to label you as less than because you don't have the image thing.
Right.
And it's funny because I always ask myself, where does it start from? Because the guy who has the range he cannot afford and is living in the shoebox, but everybody thinks he must be rich and he's not. We're creating that with our kids as well. Because the kid has to have the right shoes to go to school because that might be the only thing they have in their whole entire life that ends up that's attached to to a positive sense of esteem, and but I'll tell you this, that's been a space for me to really engage our kids with financial literacy. To the question about when did I realize financial literacy was missing, I realized that when I went into debt. When I went into debt and I had to file for bankruptcy when I was I think I was about 20, I was like 25, 26, I had to file for bankruptcy. And what happened? Very simple. I was over leveraged, credit cards. Back in the day when if you didn't pay one cell phone bill, you can go from AT&T to. We all did it.
It's called slamming. Yeah.
Okay. So we did all that, but the funny thing, no one ever sat down with me and taught me like, no. This is how, as an adult, you move through society. And the thing too, my parents had bad credit. Again, they weren't educated in that, and I had a lot of friends of mine who college graduates who had bad credit as well. And it's funny because I remember when somebody asked me about my credit score, and I for years I just pretended like I knew what that was. So it wasn't until I was in my mid-30s that I realized, okay, here I am as assistant principal. I'm making a six-figure salary, but I am literally living paycheck to paycheck. I'm making over $100,000 a year. I'm living paycheck to paycheck. What's going on here? And I started like studying financial literacy and I went to YouTube University, tried to figure out like how do I fix my credit. And what I realized was that once I knew what I needed to do, I was like, why didn't anybody tell me this? Like, why didn't anybody explain to me FICO? Why didn't anybody explain to me like this is what happens if you don't do these things the right way? And in my brain, I kept on asking myself, but this stuff is so easy. You could teach a third grader. You could start in the third grade teaching kids about money, how money works, how credit works, so that it becomes a habit while they're young. I didn't learn this in school. And I would say I don't know anyone else who's an adult who was taught about credit in school.
Neither do I.
Yeah, I'm 45 now. And if I didn't get it if I didn't get it in school when I was in the 90s, and then I know people who in the 80s didn't get it, and the same thing's happening today. There's a problem with our educational system because we're teaching core content, math, science, social studies, English language arts, but we're not teaching life skills, like real life skills. And for me, real life skills is at the foundation how to handle your money.
Okay, so
indeed, yeah.
Oh, go ahead, David.
No, I was just going to say. I mean, my buddy, who's a principal, we're talking about the math curriculum, right? And say what you want about it. His take on it is like you gotta take the math and you got to apply it to real life situations. And what better way to do it than do it with like a financial literacy course? Like it just makes a lot of sense that way. So
here's the thing about it, Uche. You actually have a podcast where you bring blockchain to anybody who'll listen. Right? That's what you said to me. Anybody who'll listen, I want to talk about blockchain. I'm fascinated by you, but I know that we're going to go 3 hours if I don't stop you because you're a captivating young man. So talk to me about how we got to blockchain and how it's one thing to say, hey, this is how you get your FICO score up, and this is how you spend less than you make, right? That financial literacy. But we're taking it to a whole new level with blockchain, and I really want to get to that.
So that one is easy. So my podcast is so what you're talking about is it's actually not the podcast. The podcast was a space where I was at the beginning of the pandemic. I was using to kind of connect with other educators and other school leaders to talk about our practice during this time and space. What happened was this school year, this school year that's closing right now, is a full year during the pandemic. And in my school, there was a shortage of just teaching time, teachers, and the amount of time that we need teachers to cover, and the students between in person and remote didn't make any sense. So so at the end of the day, what ended up happening was I had to teach some classes. My two assistant principals had to teach some classes to kind of have enough coverage for all the kids. And so I ended up teaching an elective last semester, which was film. Because my major is in actual film and media studies. So I was teaching a film course. And during the film course, we were watching, I forget what movie we were watching, and a question came about money. And that question just kind kind of like snowballed into a deeper conversation about economics and finance and things like that. And the class was all seniors. And one of the seniors said to me, Mister, how come you guys are not teaching us about money? I'm about to go into the real world. My mom lost her job, and people are talking about the economic downturn, and I'm scared. And this kid was like, I'm scared to go to college because I'm afraid that I'm going to go to college and come out worse financially. And I sat there and I was like, this is interesting because I've been saying this to myself personally. How come we're not teaching this in schools? And so that was last semester, and the course was only a semester course. So I told the kids, like, listen, if you guys are interested, I will switch one of my sections for the spring semester to be financial literacy. If you're interested, let me know and I'll have you enrolled in that class. So I kind of like, listen, I had no curriculum. All I have is experience and what I know, the little and a lot that I know from jacking up my stuff and fixing it back up. So I taught this financial literacy course this term, and we're going over, the basic stuff, credits and budgeting. And of course, the one question that kept on coming up from the kids every single day, Mister, when are we going to talk about crypto? When are we going to talk about crypto? And I was like, you guys really want to talk about crypto? I was like, okay, let's talk about crypto. So we have these casual conversations. And as we were talking about it, I was pushed in my own personal time to really solidify my understanding in terminologies and to be able to really explain to the kids and kind of dig deep. And from there, the class became almost entirely about crypto. And one of the questions the kids kept on asking, and kept on coming up over and over again was, Mister, how come when I go online and I'm trying to understand more about crypto, I don't see anybody that looks like me. I don't see black people. I don't see brown people. I see white people. I see Asian people. I see Indian people, but I don't see us. How come we're not engaged in crypto? And I said, no, there are some people out there, but they're like, yeah, but it's not like everybody else. And the kids would then tell me, my mom told me that Bitcoin's a scam. Yeah, my auntie, then the kids would be like, yeah, and this is all virtual. The kids would be like in the chat, yeah, my uncle said the same thing. My brother said the same thing. And I was like, you know what? This is the real work. The real work is not just financial literacy in the traditional space, but this Bitcoin and blockchain doesn't really belong to me, or at least my generation. It really belongs to these teenagers and these kids, because by the time they reach adulthood, they will literally be walking into a world that I might not even recognize, controlled by in this digital space. So as a result, I decided to I reached out to a couple of friends of mine. I decided to be like, okay, how do I get experts regardless of what their expertise is in the crypto economy, in blockchain technology, to come into a space where I can present an audience of kids and their families and other educators to hear and learn about cryptocurrency. And last month, May, I did the first event, and I had a good buddy of mine who's really good with talking about the history of money. So he did the history of money from like the beginning all the way to digital to Bitcoin. Then I had another gentleman come from Eureka Inc. and they work around NFTs, and they came in and they talked to my students, their parents, other educators about what NFT is. And then I had this gentleman, BK the artist, who is a very famous painter, who is now putting static and animated static and animated pieces that he's done into NFTs. And he had an event in early May where he had 5 static images sell for like over $150,000. So he came and talked to the kids about these new spaces. And I will tell you this, what was amazing is the kids, they got it. They got it. The adults were like, what is this? But they were like, and no one has ever explained this to me in this capacity. So I was like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to find a way every month to have multiple spaces. And once a month where I will try to bring people in the crypto space to educate students from my school community, their parents, and especially other educators. But what I learned is that I have to educate, or at least help to educate as many principals and system principals and teachers about crypto. And because I'm surprised about how many of my colleagues are like, yeah, I know about it, but I don't know about it, so I don't even know where to start. I had a principal friend of mine who was like, literally, I'm terrified of Bitcoin, and I literally I want to buy it, but I don't even know where to start. So creating these spaces has been very important to me, because I feel like, especially even with the educators, if I can get them excited about it and get them to engage, then they're more likely to say, wait a minute, I need to make sure that my kids and my parents in my school community understand this as well.
Yeah, and about that, and this is what I tell everybody, because I know more about blockchain than most people I know, only because I've been in it since 2013, and that doesn't mean I know more than anybody else. I go to BitBlock Boom in Dallas, and then I'm one of the dumbest guys in the room. But this is what I've always said. When you first look at Bitcoin, you can't see it. But once you see it, you can't look away.
Yeah.
So keep looking. That's the advice I get. But while we're here talking about don't know where to start, I want to reiterate, if you're looking for a job, in the cryptocurrency space or in the blockchain space or the NFT space, then we're blockchain recruiters. And so David and Uche, we take this part of the show where we talk about some of the positions that we're either recruiting on, some of the candidates we have. What do you got, Dave?
I got a blockchain data engineer. I got.
Will he travel?
I
didn't know you had that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got something overseas. Okay, well, we'll talk after the podcast.
I mean, the good news is a lot of these jobs are remote, right? I mean, anyway.
Yeah, no, this person's got to travel.
He's got to travel?
Well, you got to work. You got to go to 4 different operations all over the world.
All right.
So,
okay. What do you got?
That's it. You got that one. You got one candidate in a whole week. That's all you got.
I got plenty.
Okay,
I got a whole list here. What do you want me to read it all?
No,
I mean, come on. I don't want to steal your thunder. This is your show.
No, there's no. It is my show. Since you brought that up,
go ahead.
We're going to talk about
your show.
The
go ahead.
The new.
Don't want to steal your thunder.
The new co-host who's coming on. Really, it's going to be anybody but you. That'll be good. Anyhow, no, I'm kidding. Look, I've got a software engineer, okay, and I've got a lead security engineer, crypto. And I'm actually kind of weak this way.
Crypto security designer or what
engineer?
Engineer.
Yeah.
Engineer. There's like engineer a dozen.
I've got a blockchain developer, and I had somebody call me and say, "Yeah, we need a blockchain developer, but it's a volunteer role." It's like that's not how the world works.
Yeah.
Just I need
proof of stake, proof of work. What are you talking about?
I need a volunteer 24-hour nurse and a volunteer maid. You know what I'm saying? It's like, good luck with that.
Yeah.
Good luck with
All right.
So, but anyhow, that's what I got. So yeah, we've got a lot of positions open. So yeah, if you've got skills, or if you want a job and you don't know how to get your next job, you call me or David. All right, and we'll help you. We'll give you whatever advice we can. Interviewing tips, resume tips, whatever it is. If you want a job in the blockchain space, you call us and we'll figure out how to transfer a lot of those skills, because it's so new and you'll be amazed. And if you're hiring, you got a blockchain project, or you actually have something in the blockchain space or anything, you call us, because what we do is we're constantly aggregating professionals in our database all over the world. So anyhow, Uche, I want to talk to you about, before we close up, where did you actually go to get your crypto or your blockchain knowledge? Are there any books? Is there any seminars? Do you have any mentors?
So, at first it was just YouTube, watching a lot of YouTube videos, and of course the first space that I used to purchase was Coinbase. And not understanding the other spaces, but it's funny because in my mind I literally just thought it was just only Coinbase. Then I have a friend of mine who, casually speaking, was like, hey, like he was super into trading in crypto. So I was like, hey, tell me more. And from there, he started putting me in different directions and different Telegram groups and things of that nature. But I think now what has happened is I kind of have my sources of information. I'm a big fan of, I think I shared this with the Gentleman of Crypto. And one of the hosts, Isaiah Jackson, wrote a book about, it's called Bitcoin in Black America, which I think is.
Yeah, and we talked about this. I tried to get a hold of Isaiah Jackson, but I guess he's a bigger name than I am, and so he hasn't returned my call. And also, there's Lamar Wilson, right, who's fascinating. If you listen to him with Peter McCormick's What Bitcoin Did, he's part of the Black Bitcoin Billionaire Club. And you want to talk about lifting specifically the Black community out of poverty. He's wonderful. And he's also too important to call me back too. But it's okay. My day will come. All right. I'm going to waitlist him someday. No, I don't even mean it like that. But anyhow, yeah. I wanted to make sure I got that in. And also, I just want to say this. You've heard this. Have you heard the mantra that, well, there's not going to be massive adoption until we get institutional investment into Bitcoin? Have you heard that said?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you, I 100% disagree with that. Yeah, institutional investment is coming. It's already here because greed is their creed, right? So they're buying Bitcoin and they're not telling us about it. But I personally have always believed, and it's ringing true, that poverty is a thing that's going to push adoption. And what I'm talking about is, the country of Iran, the country of Venezuela, the country of Lebanon,
El Salvador.
Well, I'm going to get to El Salvador in a second. But the thing that's so important about it is, okay, so El Salvador just recently, last month, they actually made the edict that, hey, Bitcoin is legal tender in this country. And it's not so much, yay, El Salvador, but the reason they did it is 22% of their GDP is from remittances from the United States and Canada. Right? So this is Bitcoin is going to do to Western Union what Uber did to taxis. All right. And there are a lot of governments that don't like it. But all of a sudden, you've got whatever population of the Latin community, right, that's working in marginalized positions, because most of them are, right? And now they're going to their bosses saying, hey, can you pay me in Bitcoin? And it's like, what's Bitcoin? See, so basically the expansion of the financial network, that's where the idea is so huge. Not to mention the fact that for 3 Bitcoin, I can get permanent residency in El Salvador. So if somebody decides they want to tax my Bitcoin, make my Bitcoin illegal, all I need to do is tattoo my backup phrase on my body and just clear TSA and get on a plane, baby. You watch. I'm sorry. It's like I was expecting Nigeria to do it. If Nigeria did it, next thing you know, the best hospitals, the best scientists are in Lagos. I mean, because.
But I'll tell you this: the thing with Nigeria is this: people fail to realize that Nigeria is the most populous nation in Africa. It's literally African giant. So and it's a tale of two worlds in Nigeria. You have the immensely wealthy, like insane amount of money in Nigeria. But then you have this expanse of people who are not even a middle. I don't think.
Yeah, no middle class. No middle class, right?
Either you're upper or you're lower. And the thing what's interesting is that just the population and just because of internet, it's happening. And it's just a matter of time before the government says, okay, we can't stop this, and we have to make a decision. But the one thing I want to say real quick is about you talked about like mass adoption through the institutional lenders. But one thing I think is that is going to be very powerful as far as educating, communities here in America, especially like, for example, the Black community. If Black America had its own GDP, it would be $1.3 trillion.
Just Black America.
Black America by itself, which would make it one of the top, I believe, top 12 nations in the world. Think about that.
Yeah, that's big.
Economically in America, the Black, I think the indigenous populations, the Native Americans are lower as far as economics speaking wise. But however, they're rising with a lot of casinos, things like that. But Black America is typically lowest performing economically. But still, in this lower performing, is still above the rest of the world economically speaking. So the question is, okay, now how are you worth $1.3 trillion and still below the poverty line?
Yeah, leakage, lack of consolidation.
Yes, and education, because one of the ideas that came to my mind was this: there are so many churches in Black America. Every Sunday, all the tithing and all the money goes in there. And I was thinking to myself, can you imagine if these churches had just bought one Bitcoin?
Well, we need them to buy one Bitcoin now.
No, but still, if they had bought one Bitcoin 5 years ago, each church, that investment would have been better than any investment that they made. So even right now, if each church says, okay, listen, we're just gonna buy $20,000 worth of Bitcoin and just hold it for the next year or two, like that level of growth All you need is one institution within these communities, whether it's the Black community, the Latino community, to do something like that and show that this is legitimate. Because I believe that every family, at some capacity, should have at least some amount of money in Bitcoin, just in their hard wallet under the bed.
Yeah, I want to talk about this real quick. So those of you who don't know, how do I get Bitcoin? And I'm not endorsing anybody, but I'm going to say to you, this is what I tell everybody who's new. Go to Coinbase. And the reason I say go to Coinbase, it's easy to attach your bank account to them. On top of that, they're American. They're ruled by the mighty power of the U.S. government, the Justice Department. They're publicly traded. So there's not going to be any magical money going away with Coinbase, okay? Once you get Coinbase set up, you need to get an automatic extraction from your bank account to Coinbase. You need to start getting that. In separate episodes, we're going to talk about self-custody. I've talked about that. That's a whole different issue. And so when Uche says you got to put it on your bed, right? Because keeping it on the exchange is the same thing as keeping your money on the bank, right? You need to have cash in your house, out of the banking system. You have to have gold and precious metals in your possession, out of the banking system. You got to have Bitcoin that you can actually possess, okay? Because this is the people's money, and it's bringing power back to that. So before we stop, Uche, I want you to get out of that chair, and I want you to bring your most favorite pair of shoes, and I want you to show us. And we'll let you pick two if you're stuck, but go now. We want to see the shoes. Can you see? Right. Yeah, Travis. Yeah, go ahead. Look at those kicks, man. Okay, put them on. Oh, you can't hear me. Look at those kicks, man. Okay.
So first off, I do wear my sneakers, but
put it up so we can see it. We can't see it.
This right
You're
here,
probably one of the few sneakerheads who does wear sneakers.
Yeah.
So this is the reverse shadow boards.
Yeah.
And Jordan 1s.
Okay.
And what's interesting about these retail, $175.
Right.
However, right now, brand new, over $1,000. And this pair right now, worn, is about $800.
Well, let's see the other one.
And this here is one of my favorites. And these are SBs. So they're Nike SBs. SB stands for skateboard. And these are called Walk the Dogs. And what's interesting, I don't know if you can tell, you have like a little hair. It's cow skin, but they dyed it, so it looks like a chocolate lab. Uh-huh. You have the golden retriever here.
Hey, for those of you who are listening to this on Apple or Spotify and not YouTube, I'm sorry. I'm going to put this up on my my Instagram, and you're gonna be able to see this because it's just too good to be missed. So Uche, I'm sorry I cut you off. Thank you so much. I got one question for you. So we're the summer of 2021. A year from now, what's the price of Bitcoin going to be?
It's funny because I would say this honestly. I don't know. I don't care.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why.
I know why, right? But go ahead.
Regardless of what it is, you have to have it.
That's right.
But I do know that it's going to become more and more scarce. And once the next halving happens, it's going to be insane. So this is, it's funny, but I was listening to what's his name? I always mess up his name. Takar, the guy who used to put out the Palm Beach report.
Oh, Tika.
Yes.
Taquari, Tika, right? But anyhow, yeah.
I was listening to a YouTube he did recently. I think like 2 days ago, and he said, which is funny, he said Bitcoin right now is super cheap.
Yeah, it sure is.
It requires a mind shift. But somebody's going to say, wait, but it's like $40,000. That's not cheap. But if you think about it in the grand scheme of things, it's going to be somewhere. But my thing is this: I'm buying, I'm not selling.
Yeah, and so for those of you who, just so you don't get scammed, okay, I'm going to put a link down to Coinbase, okay? I'm not affiliated with them. I just want you guys to know. I don't want you to Google something the wrong way and go to some, obscure, non-American, rip-me-off exchange. And I won't say Binance out loud. So anyhow, so Uche, is there anything you want to say to the audience before we go?
Just get educated, and I am not an expert by any means, but one of the things that I've learned over the past, at least over the pandemic, is that the pandemic hit and a lot of people lost everything, and we're not talking about it. And I just wonder if people were better financially educated and had access to knowledge, about things like crypto and things of that nature, if it could have made a difference. So that's what I'm doing at least for my students and for members of my school community is trying to give them access to education, because at some point in time you have to have control of your own destiny, your own future. And if I can say this one last thing, we live in a world right now where everybody's talking about equity and racial equity and creating a space where
social backup. Go ahead. I want your social backup. Sorry, go ahead.
So people are talking about racial equity and all the things that's happened since George Floyd and Black Lives Matter. And my thing has been this. I agree with that 100%, but there's something else that I believe needs to be addressed. When Dr. King was assassinated, the last mission that he was starting to embark on was the poor people's movement. He was saying now it's no longer just about war and racial justice. It's also about economic access.
Yeah.
And then he got assassinated. Because once we start talking about economic access, economic access prevents wars. Economic access it creates racial equality, because then now we're all equal footing. So I think it's very important.
No, this is important. Bitcoin actually gives equality and hope, right? With sound money and U.S. fiat, this dirty fiat right here. Or here, I know it's not Nigeria, but it's the Zimbabwe $100 trillion bill.
Ours is not as bad.
Not yet, right? But anyhow, the thing about it is this pays for the industrial war machine and bombs off the sweat and out the back of poverty. But what I wanted to say to everybody is, financial literacy, and it's fairness. So for those of you who are on Spotify and Apple, okay, if you want to know more about Uche, he's fascinating. He moderates some other podcasts that I've had the pleasure of hearing that are a little off topic of cryptocurrency. But the whole purpose of Bitcoin is a financial network, and we in this podcast, we're a human-to-human idea of consciousness network. You are listening to this channel because you want to raise your consciousness, right? Like Albert Einstein said, the level of thinking that got us from where we were to where we are is not going to get us from where we are to where we need to be, right? And we need to be out of the fiat space from where we come to the blockchain space, right? So if you want to know more about Uche Njoku, okay, he's on YouTube, okay? And I'm going to say this for you. I'm going to say it slowly. It's The Njoku, spelled Njoku, The Njoku School 2.0. All right? And if you want to get him at Twitter, he's The Sneaker, but it's not spelled sneaker. It's SNKR Principal. All right. Uche, on behalf of my partner, David, and myself, you've been an absolute delight. Thank you so much for investing the time with us with a totally different take. What are you going to say? I mean, kind of...
to that end, to what Uche said, remember, it's not only knowledge is power, it's applied
knowledge is not power. Knowledge
applied knowledge is power. It's what you do with it. If you want to, be better than you are, you got to be the change that you want to be.
That's right. If you're sitting in your closet with a treasure map, you're not going to find any treasure until you go out looking. So anyhow, Uche, thank you so much. To my man, Travis, my engineer, thank you. My partner, Robo Recruiter, Dave Hampton, and I'm David James, the Job Whisperer. And remember, everybody, get whispered.